Shanquella's attorneys Ben Crump and Shanquella Robinson held a news conference ahead of a rally in Washington Friday demanding justice and also marking the 200th day since Shanquella Robinson's death.
Okay.
200 days today. Malcolm X's birthday.
If everyone's ready, we will begin. I'm attorney Ben Crump, along with my great co-counsel and partner, attorney Shanquella Robinson, and attorney Nabiha Shear, Monique Presley. We have the honor of representing the mother of Shanquella Robinson and her family. We also have present with us a force of nature in the name of Tamika Mallory with Until Freedom. Also, we have my son, the general. We have Angelo, the professor, Linda Sarson, and other freedom fighters and activists, not only here in Washington, D.C., but especially in her hometown of Charlotte, North Carolina. And we applaud those activists from Charlotte from being there from the beginning till the end. We are delighted and so thankful to have one of our true icons, one of our heroes standing for justice for the family of Shanquella Robinson, and that is none other than Dr. Ben Chavis, the head of the National Newspaper Association. Thank you so much, Dr. Chavis, for being here. Attorney Robinson and Miss Mallory, we talked about this day with the family long before it happened, and we were praying that we would not have to come here on this day. 6 months later, 200 days later, from when Miss Salamandra's baby, Shanquella, was tragically killed on that video. Taquilla's, her sister, is also present with us. And we were hopeful that the killers of Shanquella Robinson would have already started to face their, I think it's
going into the speaker.
we want to make sure everybody can hear.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Okay, we want to make sure everyone can hear. We were hopeful that this day never had to happen. 6 month mark from when Shanquella Robinson was killed, we were hopeful that her killers would have already been brought to justice, that they would have already been picked up with the warrant that the Mexican government issued for the unmerciful beating, brutality that saw this young black woman who at the time was naked and not fighting back. And when asked, right, Miss Mallory, why don't you fight back? She said she's not going to fight back. But yet her killers continued to brutalize her. We were hoping that that was enough evidence to say you should be arrested and let the wheels of justice start turning, because Shanquella's life mattered. And then we got the autopsy reports, and we just believed in our heart of hearts that that was enough to bring the killers to be arrested so the wheels of justice would start turning. But yet that did not happen. We were hopeful that once the FBI got engaged, that they would respect this American citizen, this young black woman who, based on the video, did absolutely nothing to warrant such a savage beating. But yet, here we are, 6 months later, and everybody who participated in the maiming and brutality of Shanquella Robinson is still completely free. Imagine if this is your child. Imagine if this is your daughter who you bear and you brought into this world. Just imagine that. And nobody is being held accountable for how they killed her. And that's why I'm so thankful to my partner, attorney Shanquella Robinson, and Tamika Mallory, these strong black women, saying that it's not just your sister, Shanquella. Shanquella Robinson is all our sister. And if it can happen to Shanquella Robinson, then it can happen to your sister too. So we all got to stand up for justice for Shanquella Robinson. 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 And we're so thankful to the leadership of the National Council of Negro Women for allowing us to have this press conference here to talk about not only do Black Lives Matter, but we really have to fight and let everybody know that black women matter.
Yes.
And so before Attorney Robinson addresses you, I want to give some updates, and she's going to elaborate and remind you all of the protocol that we have in place in the State Department when an American citizen is killed abroad. What normally happens, and what didn't happen with Miss Salamandra, her mother. But Miss Mallory, who I call my co-counsel too, she's not a lawyer, but she plays one on TV. We are encouraged by our meeting at the White House this morning with the White House officials and White House counsel. We met with Steve Benjamin, who is the Director of Public Engagement for the White House, and his staff and members of White House counsel to talk about what do we do now? How do we go forward? Or do we tell Ms. Salamandra that there's no hope for justice for her child? And we are grateful that they said no, don't give up on the process, that we are going to look at what can be done to make sure that there is at least due process for Shanquella Robinson. Because we understand everybody's innocent until proven guilty. And as people of color in America, we want to make sure that everybody is given their due process. But now, once you have the evidence laid bare, like what we saw in that video,
Yes.
and there's no justification for it, then just like any other body's children, we want justice for our children.
That's right.
Just simple justice. We're not asking for anything extravagant or anything extra. We just want simple justice for our children too. And so we are very hopeful. And we can never underscore the point, my son, that oftentimes, and I'm so grateful to my son and Until Freedom for always making this point, because people try to say, oh, you civil rights activists and you social justice activists, it's only when a white person kill a black person do you all start protesting and making a fuss. That is not true. Anytime one of our children is killed unjustly, then we gonna protest and we gonna petition and we gonna challenge the powers that be to say that we want justice for our children. And it doesn't matter if the hand that killed our children was a black hand or a white hand.
Right.
We want justice when it is necessary that justice be done. Amen? And so, my son, thank you for always reminding us that we fight for justice anytime our children are killed unjust. And Miss Salamandra, there is no question when you look at that video that people can say this was just. It was unnecessary. It was uncalled for. And I am so sorry at 6 months, nobody has been apprehended for the murder of your child. But we will not rest peacefully until you can have some measure of peace. That is the commitment from our legal team and certainly from Tamika and the activists in Charlotte and everywhere. Nobody is going to let there be peace until we get some justice from Shanquella Robinson. And with that, we know that there's a warrant pending in Mexico. And you all are going to hear from my brilliant law partner, Attorney Robinson, Attorney Sue Ann Robinson. No relation, but she's becoming like a daughter to Miss Salamandra because she worked so hard, went to Mexico courageously, did what they didn't do at the FBI, went to Mexico and turned over rocks to search for the truth. And I think she should be given a round of applause as she comes to the podium. Attorney Sue Ann Robinson.
Well, we said that we hoped that we wouldn't have to be here on the 200th day, but we promised you that we would if we needed to. Because when the FBI declined charges, I know it was hard for the community to understand what was happening and to understand why I was saying we're disappointed, but we're not deterred. But today we're encouraged, as Attorney Ben Crump said, because we had a meeting with the White House and they heard us and they're hearing the family and they're understanding that it is a case that came from the people. It's really the people's movement.
Yeah.
It's Shanquella Robinson. It's her family, their loss, but Shanquella is our sister.
Amen.
And I think that the White House is starting to get the message that we're not going to stand down. We're not going to accept no. We're not going to accept later, tomorrow, 10 years from now. We're not in that phase. We're in the phase where we understand what we have to do to protect ourselves, to protect black women. We understand that it's Malcolm X's birthday today, and we know what his quote was. We know what he said, that black women were the most disrespected. We were the most unprotected. But we stand here today saying that's going to end. We're going to stop using that because it's going to be a new day, and we're going to start with Shanquella Robinson.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're definitely encouraged on today with our meeting. We're not concerned with what the FBI declining charges because we know that there's still a path to justice. We said that from the beginning. You can do your investigation, FBI. If the U.S. authorities don't want to move forward, get out of the way and let the Mexican authorities act on their investigation that was done close in time to her death. Let them act on what they've already said. They've already named an aggressor in the case. That's all we're asking. We're asking for the case to be prioritized, for the State Department, for the Office of International Affairs to get the file and prioritize the case and let the extradition process go forward if they've decided to decline charges. We're also asking for transparency, things that we shouldn't have to ask for, as I've said before. We would love to be out of this business of forcing the U.S. government to apply the same rights and liberties that everyone else has, but we're here. So just as a reminder, there is a protocol when a U.S. citizen is killed abroad. The Consul General is actually supposed to contact the family. Unfortunately, that didn't happen in this case. Salamandra Robinson and her husband were forced to find their daughter's body, where it was located, find a funeral director in Mexico to prepare her body, and arrange for her to be brought back to the United States on their own. which is not the protocol.
Not
there is
the
a protocol for it. The only reason why I'm going over it is for future families to know what happened here is not the protocol. That's not what That's not what's supposed to happen. After they are advised and liaison with the U.S. consul in Mexico, they are supposed to facilitate that. If there's a criminal investigation, at that point the FBI would have taken custody of the body and immediately done an autopsy. That also did not happen in this case. Okay, the U.S. authorities, the FBI, didn't do an autopsy until the day before Shanquella's funeral, where the body had already been transported, had already been embalmed and prepared for burial, which is going to compromise any autopsy and, again, compromise any investigation. That is not the protocol. That is not the protocol, to be clear. The FBI should have been involved from the beginning if they had taken it seriously, but they did not. It was the people, it was social media, it was individuals, it was black women all across the country, all across the world, saying we saw a video in which a woman was brutally attacked, in which Salamandra's beautiful, bright, amazing daughter was attacked, and something has to be done. That's why the case was brought to the forefront. That's how come her name was continuously said. That's how come we've all become involved. And that's how we are going to continue this movement with the support and the help of all of you who are watching, who are continuing to say her name, because it matters. It matters that a U.S. citizen was abroad, a crime was committed against her, and she was returned to her family in a box, and nothing has been done to the individuals who witnessed it, who participated in that. And we're not gonna stop, like Attorney Ben Crump said, until justice is served. And if justice can be served in Mexico, then we're asking the U.S. authorities to get out of the way.
Amen.
And let it be served. Because there is a protocol, there is a precedent. Again, the family is not asking for anything new or different or special or preferential treatment. They're asking for something that there's been a treaty in place since 1970. We saw it with the kidnapping case. Very quickly, the FBI got on the same page with the Mexican authorities in order to resolve that, and they could do that here. So if we have to come back every 10 days, every 15 days, every 20 days to remind them of what the protocol is, we'll do that. We'll be here, and we hope you'll be here with us supporting this family until the very end.
All right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I absolutely, again, and anytime I have an opportunity, cannot fathom and cannot understand the level of strength, the well that Quilla Long and Salamandra Robinson must be digging into in order to be mourning a new dynamic in their family without someone who was so important to them, and also at the same time have to be here fighting for justice, carving a path to justice, going to the White House and talking before the press repeatedly. I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. But I thank them, and I'm so honored to represent them and work with them every day. And we are like family. Everybody always says, oh, her last name is Robinson, but they're not related. But now I'm saying we are related because we're sisters, we're family, and we're united in our fight for justice for Shanquella Robinson. Is Tamika now? Tamika now?
No.
Okay.
Say her name. Say her name. Say her name. And I love what Attorney Sue-Ann Robinson said. If you're not going to do anything, get out the way and let the Mexican authorities go ahead and bring them to trial. And it hit me. All we want the State Department to do is just do what the protocol is. The protocol, if you know there's a warrant out there, help orchestrate that person being sent to Mexico to face the evidence and charges against them. And you all do understand there's a plethora of evidence. I mean, you got video, you got autopsy, and you got text messages. You got first-hand accounts of them lying to Shanquella's mother and sister in their own living room. a plethora of evidence. And so I kept thinking, Attorney Robinson, when you were talking, I kept thinking of the Ludacris song, Move, Get Out the Way. Move, Get Out the Way. Move, Get Out the Way. If you ain't going to do nothing, FBI, don't stand in the way of this family getting justice.